Okay, seventh grade, so I just recorded this whole 10-minute video on what makes something alive, and my office was too dark, so I'm just like this shadow speaking to you. So I'm going to re-record and see where we get. So, okay, we're going to start life science simply by talking about what makes something a living thing, what makes something alive as opposed to something non-living. This is actually not a lesson in this chapter or in the textbook that you're using right now, but I still think it's really the best way to start us off. So, what makes something alive? Well, let's talk about some characteristics of life. Number one, if you're a living thing, you have cells. All living things are made up of cells. We're going to start the class by studying how cells were found and this formation of the cell theory. But if you are a living thing, you have cells. You either have one, which you are unicellular, or multicellular. Unicellular organisms such as bacteria are living things. Even though they might be simple, inside that cell, we call the cell the basic unit of structure and function because everything inside that cell is capable of performing all the necessary functions of life. You, on the other hand, are a multicellular organism, so your cells are organized into tissues, which are then organized into organs, which are then organized into organ systems, which then makes you an organism. So your cells are more specialized. But inside every one of the cells is everything necessary to perform the functions needed for life. So if you're a living thing, check for cells first. Also, if you're a living thing, you have a chemical composition, meaning that inside these cells are chemicals responsible for performing necessary functions in the body. Water is easily the most abundant. Your cells are mostly made up of water. The water that makes up the majority of the cytoplasm is where a lot of the chemical reactions take place in the cells. Carbohydrates, such as glucose, this is the main source of energy for cells. So whether you're a single-celled or multicellular organism, your body has this process called cellular respiration where it breaks down glucose to cellular energy called ATP. We have a whole lesson, so don't panic if those are big words and you don't know what they mean. We'll get you there. Lipids. We're going to talk and focus mainly on lipids, which you might know more as fats and oils, but what they function as in the cell membrane. Your cell membrane is made up of phospholipids, and it's a very unique environment that it helps to maintain inside and outside of the cell. Proteins. We'll talk a lot about proteins. Proteins do make up a lot of those cell organelles, and we'll get into some interesting conversations about how proteins are formed in the body, and then all this neat new research about how they're folded in a variety of different ways depending upon their functions. Very fascinating information about proteins. And then finally, nucleic acids. Nucleic acids you simply know as DNA, which is the blueprint of life, and we do a whole unit on genetics. So if you're a living thing, you have cells, and you have chemicals that perform necessary processes inside of those cells. If you are a living thing, you use energy. We call this metabolism. Living things get energy to function by taking in and breaking down materials. So we will talk about this in two forms, photosynthesis and also cellular respiration. You cannot function, your cells cannot function without energy. And so the body has this method, and organisms, I should say, not just your body, but organisms in general have this method for breaking down or taking in materials to get energy. For us, we call that cellular respiration. I ate yogurt and granola for breakfast today. My cells are like, what? They don't know what that is. They only know this language of ATP. That's the only energy they know. So your body has a way to metabolize so that the cells can get their energy in ATP. And we'll spend a lot of time talking about cellular respiration and photosynthesis. So if you're a living thing, you have cells, you have chemicals that perform cellular processes inside of those cells, and you use energy. Grow and develop. Okay, if you're a living thing, I think this one seems fairly obvious to you. You can become larger. Also, you can become more complex. So as you grow, as organisms grow, they can become more complex. You are more complex than you were as an embryo. You have continued to grow, and throughout that growth, your structure has become more complex. The interesting thing about the connection here to metabolism is that in order to do this, your cells need energy to make more of themselves. In order to grow, you are making more cells. So if you are alive, you must grow and develop. Reproduction. Well, the ability to produce offspring is definitely a necessary component of being alive. Your species is not going to survive very long unless you could produce more of you. There are two types of reproduction. There's asexual reproduction, which are for our bacteria and single-celled organisms. This is reproduction where there is only one parent, and it produces offspring that are identical matches to the parent. So in this image up here, if we have a parent here, this parent then replicates its DNA and divides it into two separate cells. This is called binary fission or mitosis, and we'll talk about this at length a bit later on. We'll also talk about sexual reproduction, where there are two parents and the offspring are a combination of the parent's genetic makeup. So for more complex multicellular organisms, there are two parents where dad donates half DNA and mom donates half DNA, and then the offspring is a combination of those that genetic information. The information is coming from two separate places, and so the genetic makeup of the offspring is a combination of those two. What we're going to work on this week is something called respond to stimuli. If you're an organism, it is necessary that you respond to changes in your environment. This is necessary for your survival. So a stimulus is a change to an organism's environment, and all living things respond to stimuli. You always come up with things like, if I put my hand on something hot, I pull it off. You can't make yourself, you can't will yourself to touch something that is harming you. You have a response to stimuli to pull your hand away. We talk about things like when we're afraid, our heart rate goes up. And we just did a heart rate lab where you're afraid, your life's in danger, your heart rate goes up. Blood flows to your extremities because you get that sort of adrenaline fight or flight reflex happening. That is a response to a stimuli in your environment. So this week we're going to be working with invertebrate organisms, and we're going to be changing some things in their environment and recording how they respond to that. So we're going to be providing some stimuli and then recording how these organisms respond to that stimuli. We have best beetles and millipedes, and we're looking at things like changes to food source, heat, light, and pressure to see how these organisms respond to those changes. So a little bit of a recap. If you are a living thing, you have cells. Cells are the basic unit of structure and function in the body. In that cell contains everything needed to survive. If you're a single-celled organism, if you're a multicellular organism, your cells combine to form tissues, then organs and organ systems, and then the organism. If you are a living thing, you have a chemical composition. You have chemicals that are responsible for processes that occur inside the cell. If you are a living thing, you use energy. You get energy to function by taking in and breaking down materials. If you are a living thing, you grow and develop. You can become larger or become more complex. If you are a living thing, you reproduce. You have this ability to produce offspring. And if you are a living thing, you are capable of responding to stimuli. So you have a set of notes to complete with this, so take a look at those notes right now. There isn't a section in your textbook to read. We'll talk about this tomorrow, work with our lab partners on some activities, and then start our lab. Have a good night.